kind of feel like all real estate investors should know how to wholesale, even if it isn't your end game or your main thing.
Yeah.
Because when you can learn how to find your own deals, you can keep all the meat on the bone.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of cool.
Jerry Norton, newest cartel boss.
Thank you.
Absolute legend. I remember in my dorm room at Harvard thinking about getting into house flipping and searching how to flip houses. And your channel was probably the first channel I came across and subscribed to. That was back in like, I think 2014, 2015.
That sounds about right, yeah.
So let's get started. Tell us, how did you get into real estate?
Well, I mean, my story is probably similar to a lot of people. I was kind of dead-end job, going nowhere, wanted something better, started to really started to work on my own personal development.
Yeah.
And, grabbed onto this idea of owning my own business, becoming financially free, not really sure how to do that. Of course, I read the same thing, real estate's made more millionaires than anywhere else. So I thought, okay, that's got to be it. And when I found out about wholesaling, it was like most people, it was kind of like this fascinating idea.
Yeah.
And I borrowed some money. I went to this boot camp.
Yeah. What were you doing before this? Were you
It was
you working
underground
9 to 5?
construction. Yeah, it was literally digging holes in construction.
Wow.
Was what I was doing before wholesaling. Mid-20s, I think I was 27. And went to this kind of wholesale seminar. And it was actually like a boot camp, small group. It was great.
Right.
I don't know if anybody recognizes the name Robin Thompson. She's, I don't know if she's even around anymore, but it was in Florida. I borrowed the money, went to this thing. And what was fascinating was I met people there that knew so much.
Right.
And I thought, man, they got to be killing it. So I'd go up and I'd talk to them at break and I'd be like, man, because they answered all the questions, they know everything. Yeah. And I just like, man, you're a wealth of knowledge. Tell me about how you're doing. I haven't done my first deal yet. And it was my first introduction to people that kind of consume or learn but don't take action.
Yeah.
Now I've since found out that that's like super normal.
Yeah.
That wasn't me. I would learn something. I'm kind of the guy that like jumps into the deep end of the pool. I don't know what I'm doing and I fumble through. Yeah. It's messy, it's ugly, but I just tend to learn really well that way. And I actually kind of recommend it. Like you're going to learn so much more falling on your face than you are waiting until you got everything perfect. And so I kind of just took that like massive action and was part-time in it a little bit, like just afraid of the full-time plunge. And then when I finally said, okay, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to quit the job and go full-time, that my first month I did 5 wholesale deals, made $52,000.
Wow.
And that was all the money I'd seen in the world. That was like, I think my job was paying me, $25,000 a year, kind of minimum wage job.
Yeah.
And I just haven't looked back since. At the time, 2004, there wasn't much in technology. There wasn't much in tools, resources. Yeah. So it was pretty much driving for dollars was like the main thing I did in a pickup truck, driving around looking for stuff. And that's kind of how I got my start. It's in Metro Detroit. And I went straight to like low end, like the worst
Hood
neighborhoods
houses.
imaginable. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Trap houses.
Like $5,000 houses that I'd wholesale for $10,000.
For $10,000.
Right? Yeah. It was like that type of thing. And so for a couple of years, I just straight wholesaled. Then 06, 07 happens in Detroit. The market started to really decline and we started to draw a lot of national attention and international attention because of I called it the cheap factor. So California money was coming, overseas money was coming, and they were buying up these cheap houses in Detroit. So I'd wholesale to these guys, and these were
institutional buyers.
Some of them, Some of them were just a dude in California, and it's like I can buy a house for $10,000 in Detroit. Let's do it.
That's a rent. For 1 month for a studio in downtown LA.
Now they had no idea what they were getting into, right? But so what would happen was I'd wholesale one of these deals, and then I'd be like, "Hey, I got another deal for you," and they'd say, "Well, I'm still trying to get my last one I bought renovated and rented." So to speed up the process, I said, well, let me help you. So that was my introduction into rehabbing. I didn't do it because I wanted to. I did it because out of necessity, I can't wholesale another house until they got the last one done. So then I started rehabbing. And then I thought, you know what, why don't I help them with management? I got some management people and we started doing some management. And so I got into the whole turnkey model. And then I thought, well, why don't I just build up some inventory? So I'd buy it, rehab it, put renter in place, and then sell it as a done product.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while. Then 08 happens, financing falls out. By the way, I was doing maybe 80 of these a year, turnkey rentals. So it was like kind of an operation. I had 15 deals going on at a time. The bottom falls out. People can't get financing. What they were doing is they'd buy it for 50. It appraised for 80. They'd cash out, refi, buy another one. So I'd sell one guy 10 houses. Yeah. Right? It was awesome until they couldn't get financing. Mm-hmm. So then, overnight I'm kind of out of business with that model. So all I did is I said, okay, well, why don't I do the same thing but retail? And so I'd buy it, renovate it, just flip it, retail. Yeah, so a little different rehabs. We're doing granite now, a little nicer, but same idea. Yeah. And I just pivoted on the spot. And I think that was a valuable lesson because I saw a lot of people go out of business during the 2008 crash. Mm-hmm. And it was like skipping a rock and I was on to the next thing that worked. Yeah, now that was a challenge because for every 3 contracts I'd get, 1 could close because financing was hard retail as well. They wouldn't appraise or they couldn't get financing. So, but I worked through it, and then I had something really pivotal happen. I got a deal that I flipped that was in a $375,000 neighborhood, and I was flipping like $150,000 houses. Yeah. So I do this flip. I make $75,000 instead of $25,000. Right. And it was just as much work. Yeah. And I had this light bulb moment of like, wow, why don't I focus more on margin than volume? Yeah. And so that was a real sticking point for me. So I continued that progress of like just going higher end. Yeah. And, all along the way, I had this goal, like I want to do $1 million deal. Like that was my big thing when I was young in the business. I was like, deal. One deal makes me $1 million. And so I'd write that down. I'd write it every year. I'd rewrite that goal. I'd think about it. And a few years ago in Scottsdale, Arizona, I did my first, $1 million deal. Wow. And hit that benchmark. And then, I've done several since then. So it was kind of like when you do something, you reset your expectations, right? Like it's a new thermostat. Yeah. And so I've really enjoyed flipping as well. And all along the way, I've just continued to wholesale. I kind of have the philosophy for a lot of years, if I can find my own deals, I'll keep the home runs and fix and flip those. And the singles, doubles, and triples, I'll wholesale those. Yeah. Because there's always a flipper that's okay to make small margins. Yeah. Every market has those. Yeah. In fact, most wholesaling is, finding that end buyer that will pay the most, which means you might be making more as the wholesaler than that flipper's going to make on that deal. But that's just how it is. In Phoenix, they make $20,000 to do
the value is in the buy. I always tell you, you make your money when you buy, you lose it on construction. Yeah,
definitely. And so I've always kept wholesaling as kind of my grassroots because wholesaling saved me in a lot of messes. Yeah. There's been several times where, I've overextended. I've got too many loans, too many deals. And I'm like, man, I got to go wholesale some deals so I can make my loan payments next month. Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of feel like that's been the holy grail. And it's just been an amazing business model to think that you can, through some hustle, get a great contract, make some quick cash assigning that to somebody else, put that money in your pocket, and then go do other things or keep going. Yeah.
It's almost like once you've done it a few times, it's kind of like you almost have this security in the back of your mind where you're like, even if I'm not wholesaling, if I ever do need money, I can just pound the phones for 2 weeks and get myself a deal and go make $25,000, $35,000. And I've done that a few times, even with InvestorLift and certain times where like we needed cash flow, I'll just be like, all right, let me go pound the phones for a little bit, go do a couple assignments, refill the bank account, good to go.
Yeah, I think what's been fascinating for me in the education space for all these years is much of the mindset around wholesaling is that it's a springboard into something else. Mm-hmm. And what's been amazing, especially since getting to know you a lot better, is that's not at all the case for some wholesalers.
A lot of times I see guys going the other way. They start flipping, right? They watch HGTV, they start diving in right away with flipping. Yeah, and then they realize how hard it is. Yeah. And then they come to the realization that all the money is made on the buy and the throughput and volume, the time it takes you to flip one house, I can wholesale 10. So even if you're making twice as much money on that deal, if I could do 10 times more deals in the same amount of time with the same team and the same effort, you're making more money wholesaling. So now there's the last few years there's been this emergence of the mega wholesalers. Yeah.
Which is a fairly new thing, or maybe it's not a new thing, but it's just being brought to light a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I mean, the message I'm sharing with wholesalers now is you can become a mega wholesaler.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't need to be this thing where I'm going to wholesale until I can save up money to go buy rentals or whatever.
Right.
That's fine, but it doesn't have to be. It can actually be a massive cash producing business, an operation.
Get the wholesaling machine running on autopilot first, spending off that cash, and then if you want to spend that cash doing other things, getting into multifamily or whatever, go for it. But you got to build your ATM, and like the wholesaling business is the ATM, especially if you can get running on without you.
The challenge that you're going to have as you scale a wholesale business or flipping is tax liabilities. Now your next biggest problem.
Yeah. So that brings us to Puerto Rico, which is where we are right now.
Yeah. You got two options. You move to Puerto Rico and run your company out of Puerto Rico, or you have to start investing in long-term assets. You got to start. And the problem with that is, and it's a problem I've had and every wholesaler has, is once you start to go down that rabbit hole of asset management, it's going to divert attention away from your wholesale operation.
100%. Tell us about the tax benefits for doing hotel investments here.
Yeah, so not only does Puerto Rico offer tax incentives for your income, they also have lots of other tax incentives, and some of them are real estate. So, like for example, Opportunity Zone is 97% of the island fits the Opportunity Zone. So that's a big one. There's also the tourism tax benefit, which is for the hotels. So if it's a 7-unit or higher, then the tourism department of Puerto Rico will give you a 40% tax credit.
40%.
And it's it's your acquisition, your renovation, and a year of operating, including marketing, all operations. That total number, you get a 40% basically check. Now, it's the tax credit they give you is only applicable to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But corporations buy them for like 90 to 95 cents on the dollar. So they're transferable. So you just trade them.
Yeah.
So on my hotel, we applied for it. We're getting a $1.4 million tax credit that I'll sell for 1.2.
Wow.
So it's almost like as a flipper, it's like you flipped it, but you kept it.
Right.
So your guy will love that. Your hold guy will love that. You get the benefit of flipping, but you keep it.
But you keep it. Yeah, it's almost like or the way I look at it is it's like having a long-term capital partner on your deals that you don't have to pay back.
Mm-hmm. Or one of the cool things I'm doing is I'm bringing in outside financing, and I'm basically leveraging the tax credit with my financing. So in other words, I'm telling my lender, hey, there's going to be this big lump sum of cash coming in. Yeah. Why don't we use that as collateral for the investment you're making?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that's been a great conversation.
It's a real asset.
Yeah, it's a real because there's a marketplace. It's guaranteed once you file for it. I mean, you got to meet some milestones. You don't get it. They spread it out over a couple of years. So you don't get it all at once, but it's a real thing that's coming. Like you're getting it.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And one of the cool things about the Looking Glass Hotel is actually on the top floor. We got a really cool space up there that Jerry and I are actually building a studio in right now. So expect to see a lot of content coming out of the Looking Glass. We're going to be flying people in from all over the country to take office hours and some of the content that we're doing to a next level and bring that all to you guys for free. So we got some really, really exciting. We're putting over $100,000 into one room to build the most insane. Our goal is
to recruit all you guys to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Get you to come down. We'll shoot some content, hang out, do some fun stuff, go iguana hunting.
Yes. That was a blast. A couple of things that I want to make sure we get through today. What I find interesting about you is you're really good at kind of predicting the future and seeing where stuff is going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. I want to talk about PropertyWire. Okay. So what's interesting about content education that you kind of changed the game, because back when you started, it used to be if you wanted to learn how to real estate invest, you'd find some guy, I call him the Chuck with the truck. You pay him $100,000 and he would let you sit in his truck for a month while he drove around and showed you how he did real estate.
Pull back the curtain for you a little. Yeah,
exactly. And that's kind of how you learned real estate education. And then the seminar business kind of came out, but that was a lot of fluff, not a lot of actual substantive content. You came out on YouTube and started just giving out the entire game for free. By the way, we did an entire 8-video series, Jerry and I. Check it out on Jerry Norton's channel. There's a playlist there. My entire 0 to $1 million per month playbook. I've never done the entire thing. all at once, and the whole thing is on your channel.
That literally could sell as a course. People have commented and said, this is more than I've gotten on any paid thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's a great example of giving away for free what used to cost a lot of money to get access to. But you and I did it very strategically because we're playing the long game. And that's the difference.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. We don't care about a quick buck here and there. So you guys should jump on that. I have had people say that they've spent $30,000, $40,000 on coaching and learned more in a few hours watching that. So definitely check it out if you haven't. But the main point is you kind of came out with that theory. You pushed it out there. You proved it. Then everyone copied you.
Yeah.
Now with Property Wire, explain to us how you're kind of doing the same.
Yeah. So when I first started doing content, what happened was I was in the education space. So I was selling coaching, I was selling courses, and I saw the trends in content moving more and more to high value content. So content used to be, and you guys probably all remember this, you'd watch a YouTube video, and it would say, hey, here's steps 1 and 2 and 3. But if you want steps 4, 5, and 6, buy my course.
Yeah.
So it was used as kind of like a bait and switch type of thing. Or I'll give you chapter 1. If you want the rest of it, buy my course. And that was how content was used in the past. But, what I saw was I said, this is not going to stay like this.
Yeah.
And you started to see content just start to go up in quality. So what I did is I strategically made a move and I said, you know what? I'm no longer going to sell courses. Like I'm out of the course business. Instead, I'm going to put as much as I can in value into free content. Now, I still monetize because we have software, we can do coaching. So there's other ways to monetize. But as far as content, I want it to be the one that would give all the steps, not just the barn, the whole farm. Yeah. So it used to be give the barn, sell the farm. Now it's like, here's the whole farm. And it really worked well because what it did is it allowed people to really gain a lot of trust, a lot of confidence. Here's a guy giving high value, not asking for anything in return. In fact, not only did I do the content that way, but then we would just give tons of free resources. Yeah. Here's my contracts. Here's my scripts. Here's whatever. Right. Today we have over 40, like we call them lead magnets, but they're free resources that are high quality, valuable resources. And what that's done is it's built a lot of trust and a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. And I believe in the law of reciprocity. When you do something good for somebody else, they feel an obligation to do something back for you. Yeah. So now I can say, hey, here's this content that I put my heart and soul into. Watch this video. And hey, by the way, check out my software if you're interested, sign up for it. Yeah. And it's now drawn people into the platform that way in a massive way. And that'll do the same thing with our masterclass. People will come to Investor Lift because they're like, here's this Rob Wensley guy giving away trade secrets that no one gives away. Mm-hmm. I want to find out more about what he does. I want to check out what he's doing. If he's giving me this high value, what's his paid stuff like? Must be amazing. Yeah. Kind of idea.
Yeah. Right? And I have the same philosophy as you. I always am like, hey, I'm going to give out all my content for free because if people do well and if they consume the content, they execute on it, they do well and make tons of money on deals, they got to sell those deals somewhere. Yeah. And if I've built the trust with them on content and they've had success with that, they're going to buy the software and they're going to use the software and they're not going anywhere. Yeah. Right. So I share that 100%. And now you're doing that with data.
Yeah. So with the data, and by the way, I'm not the first one to think of that idea. That's a very common model. I mean, if you look at, I think Zillow is a great example. Yeah. So Zillow is the largest retail property data site. Right. And how does Zillow make money? Well, from advertisements. So here's all the information for free. Here's the data. Search and look at homes for free. And then we're going to monetize on the side, offering other services. Mm-hmm. So it used to be in the very recent future, the model was, we'll give you 10,000 records, 10,000 leads for a monthly subscription, $97 a month. And then where they really made money was on the upsells, right? Mm-hmm. So then if you want more than 10,000, which anybody who's in the game really at any kind of level is going to need more than 10,000. So then they started averaging more like, $600, $700, $800 a month when you bought all the additional data, mm-hmm. right? And so that was sort of the model. Well, my idea, and by the way, we're still in the early phases. So I'll either be a genius or a complete moron, but we've decided to just give the data for free, unlimited.
Yeah, you get that unlimited property data.
Yeah, so it's prop wire. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, it's prop wire. Now, I knew that the only way this would work is it had to be as good or better than the big data providers.
Yeah.
And the user interface had to be really slick. Like it had to be where you don't need a tutorial to know how to use it. Like you can get in there and it's intuitive and figure it out. And so I knew I couldn't build that with my overseas team where I built Flipster. My first software was kind of like a grassroots.
Right.
You know, it's like stuff stacked on top of stuff.
Right.
It's clunky.
Yeah.
It's
overseas engineers.
You go in there and you're like, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. Like I thought the more you add to it, the better it'll be.
Yeah. Feature bloat.
Yeah. Which I quickly learned that, you know, that's not how software works. The more it has, the worse it is. Right. It's free. And I wanted it to have a really great user interface. We've got cool features like lead stacking where you can just literally click multiple lead types and it'll condense the data to just that. So, you know, and we've added things like comps. We recently rolled out monetization, which is skip tracing. So now we have a skip tracing service, and that's monetized. So it's kind of cool now to see. You know, in a few months we went from launch to today. We have I think 30,000 subscribers to the software.
Wow!
And we're averaging, you know, and now the skip tracing is really doing well. So we're not break even yet. So I'm spending a lot of money on data and a lot of money on the dev team. And I've been now working on the software for a long time, you know, over a year, 18 months, I think. So I've got a lot, and it's pretty much self-funded. So it's just my cash into this project. But I really believe that the industry's going there anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like when you see something happening, it's like, well, do I want to sit by and watch it happen anyway? Or do I want to be the one that does it?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I approach that project is
100%. And it's one of the things they teach you at Harvard. In any commodities business, there's something called perfect competition, where basically it's a race to the bottom on price. And in the data business, if there's other monetization strategies, eventually the data is going to be free. And you just jumped ahead on that.
The big aha moment I had was your competitive advantage in the marketplace is not data.
No, it all comes from the same providers.
Everybody's got the same data.
Everyone's got the same data.
Everybody has the same information.
100%.
So why do you have guys, you know, Jason Ford doing $1 million a month and other guys that can't get their first deal? It's not the data.
It's how you
we used to
it.
think it was the information. We used to think, you know, if I had the secret list,
right,
or you know, if I was in a market where there was no competition, well, that's not the case.
Yeah. Seller data is dime a dozen. Like it all comes from basically two providers, and then other people resell it on top and have different APIs and stuff. But basically, it comes from two companies.
So that's no longer the secret sauce. Is the data.
100%. We're going to have lots more content coming out with Jerry and myself here in the next few weeks and months. Make sure to check out the series we did on Jerry's channel. When you watch those, drop in the comments what else you'd like us to cover that maybe we didn't cover in those first 8 videos. That would be super valuable to us. And we'll shoot them, we'll record them, we'll put them out there, 100%, you know, free education. We dropped a lot of fire today.
Yeah, it was
a lot
good.
of fire. Great.
Invite me back anytime, Rob.
Absolutely.